Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of PD and P-Dubs Unscripted. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see we got a full house kind of here with P-Dubs and Joe Latuszek joining us.
Indeed.
Woohoo. So yeah, we're going to be talking on this week's episode about the Night of Worship coming up on March 12th. And we know Joe and I did one earlier this year, but just kind of following up on that. So Joe, you can do your thing now if you want to hit the button.
Oh, I get to press the button. Here we go, folks.
PD and P-Dubs Unscripted.
So yeah, what a great theme song.
It is.
Who's that guy at the end?
I don't know, but he's got some pipes.
You guys need a better voiceover guy.
I don't know. That sounds like a podcasting voice right there.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. And welcome.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, so it's great to have everybody here with us. It's great always when we get some other guests on here, so it's not just P-Dubs and myself. Get to hear a new voice on the podcast.
Well, great to be with you, pastors. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
And, so excited for this next night of worship. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, because like I said, we did one maybe a month or so ago. You and I did one, but now we're going to get kind of that full more, because it's kind of more detailed now, because I don't think we had the date last time we talked.
Yeah, we were still kind of settling on a date. So it will be Thursday, March 12th at 6:30. Doors open at 6. Well, I mean, you can come anytime, but that's when you'll be able to get in to the sanctuary area. But our theme is truth and grace. And so we'll have, if you've been to a night of worship before, you know what we like to do is we'll split the music for the evening up into 2 sets. And then pastors and I will usually have a discussion around the theme. And this year, or this night of worship is truth and grace. So really looking forward to being able to delve into some of that stuff with you guys.
Right.
Yeah, I think of John 1 describing Jesus. The word is full of grace and truth. And so it really, centers on Jesus, where our grace and truth come from in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So I'm excited to explore this text and this topic, really.
Yeah, 100%. We've got a few related readings that we'll touch on throughout the evening, but all speaking to this idea of truth and grace, and more specifically, like, are you able to communicate truth to people? Because that in and of itself is tricky, right? Like, how do you handle truth? Like, how direct? I think we've all either met or interact with somebody. We've been that guy where you're using the truth in a way to intentionally hurt, which is different than what we're instructed to do. So it's really that thing of like, can you tell truth, and can you do it with grace? And I think that's an interesting intersection there.
It reminds me of, I brought a friend of mine and his friend to speak to us right when I first became senior pastor, speak to our staff. And they did a whole presentation on, are you a truth person? Are you a grace person? And it was very helpful because, mostly people lean one way or the other,
Yeah.
And so they're seeking the truth. And so to them, that is the pathway. Others are leaning more grace. And so it was an exercise, if I remember right, of like trying to understand each other.
Yeah.
If we are different in those thoughts or those movements on a particular interaction, and to appreciate the difference.
Those differences, and maybe helps identify in you, like, what other areas you can strengthen, because it's funny that you mentioned that, because the first thing that came to my mind is like, my wife definitely leans more grace, and I definitely lean more truth. But it's incumbent on both of us, so a lot of people like my wife are very serving, self-sacrificing people. But you also need to learn how to be truthful and set boundaries and say no to things and all of that stuff. So that's been part of her journey as in her adult life, is like, how can I be more direct and truthful when my natural instinct is to just show grace, even if it's mistreatment towards me.
Yeah.
Whereas like I'm oriented the opposite. Like I need to like hold my horses, calm down. Like don't be so ready to jump on a thing so aggressively and tell them what you think, to take that second and pause like my wife does and like take a breath and have some grace for people,
Right.
So it's interesting that like you're oriented naturally one way or the other, but we're also called biblically to do both, and so that's interesting is like, how do you even develop the thing that is not natural to you?
Right, because as I shared in John, it says that, the Word became flesh. He's full of grace and truth, not grace or truth, right?
Right.
we as individuals, we pick a side. It's kind of like the prodigal son parable. Like, which one do you identify?
Depends on the day.
Or
Yeah.
Martha and Mary. Are you a Martha? Are you a Mary?
Yeah.
And so it's like, perhaps it's like, how can the two blend together
Yeah.
and show a reflection of Christ?
Yes. And I think it kind of also ties into like the bearing your own cross, right? Like the thing that has the most transformative power potential in your life is the thing you want to do the least, So like an example from my own life, becoming a worship leader here, I'm not a huge fan of getting up in front of crowds and addressing people. If I'm going to
Right.
do it, it's to be funny or silly. Like I don't mind, or
Yeah.
to perform music or something.
Right.
I feel safe in those conditions if I'm either making people laugh or I'm playing music for them. But like having to be vulnerable and speak directly to people, like is the last thing that I wanted to do, frankly. And it's much easier for me to do it now, 3 years in. But I still have those weeks where I'm like, oh man, I do not want to get up there and stand in front of the congregation. But like God has stretched me so much by embracing that. And to be perfectly honest with you, if the opportunity hadn't presented itself here at Emmanuel, I probably would have spent the rest of my life avoiding that.
Yeah.
Thing,
I hear you. Yeah. I mean, we could probably speak to that in the journey that we've been on to the pastoral ministry.
yeah, I
And,
bet.
had I ignored or pushed it off, who knows what the path would be.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like,
Even like that nervousness, because I think back to like when my brother got married, I was best man for him. And my whole time during his speech, my hand was shaking. You could see the paper waving in my hands.
Yeah.
Or when I got ordained, like wrapping up the service, the last half of the service when I was ordained, I was so thankful for wearing my robe, my alb, because my knees were shaking there at
Shaking
the
the whole
pulpit.
time,
Yeah.
But even like those first couple times, like even probably not first couple, but for a period of time, like before preaching, like nervousness before like sleeping that night before, like I gotta preach and not sleeping the night before, and like
Yeah.
and I remember one time like, okay, I felt really good preaching after I did listen to this album, Get Ready in the Morning. So I'm like, okay, that's the only album I'm gonna listen to on mornings I'm getting ready to preach. But all those nervousness, thankfully, when I'm up preaching, you don't see my hand shaking up there or my knees aren't shaking leading worship.
Yeah.
But you just grow in that time.
I give you so much credit for pushing through that stuff, man, because it's like, especially if it's not your natural inclination, I think you've said you tilt more towards introverted, right? Yeah. And so, all the power to you, man, and to God, frankly, right? Because it's like,
It's
Yeah,
that. And
these
even
are-
with that, I think of like what President Meyer of my seminary said is like, you should be nervous before you preach because it is a big thing that you're doing. If you're not nervous, you're not taking it
Something's not
serious.
right.
You're not
Yeah.
taking it
Yeah.
serious enough.
yeah, and I'm always trying to thread that needle too as a worship leader, because my wife will say that stuff like, take a breath, and I'm like, because I can take things too serious. But it's like, you want to honor and respect the position that you're in, and it's like, I heard someone say advice to worship leaders is like, be the lead worshiper, and so it's like that has helped me a little bit with like,
good.
just because it is a responsibility. Like I take it seriously. Like people's spiritual well-being and having something to do with that. It's very fulfilling, but it's also like, you have to recognize what that is. That's a
Right,
big thing.
Yeah, just to add to this little area of the topic, when I was in business, I was in accounting. I pretty much was behind the desk doing my spreadsheets, and stretching to me was being part of a team that was, doing the business of the company, and I'd have to share with them results of their client. I was a client accountant. Here's how your client's performing. And so that was a bit of a stretch. But then when I got into consulting, I had to be in front of big audiences to demonstrate or teach about a product. And I'll never forget one time I was at Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago, and we're in this huge auditorium, and I'm supposed to demonstrate our software product along with our implementation process. And hundreds of people come into this auditorium in their white coats. You want to talk about being intimidated.
Yeah.
I'm like, thinking to myself, what am I doing here? These people are vastly more intelligent than I will ever be. And I'm trying to tell them about a product that will benefit them, hopefully, in their work.
Yeah.
And it was a new area, accounting in the medical profession is handled a little nuanced, a little differently. So I felt like I had to know those kinds of things. But the Lord helped, I think through that experience, I gained a sense of accomplishment and I can do this, even though I was, like you, Pastor, shaken behind the lectern of my presentation, and praying to God that nothing goes wrong, AV wise. And I have no idea what they thought of my presentation. I have no idea. Nobody talked to me. Nobody, nothing.
Is there anybody that was there that can report back to us how they
please.
felt?
Yeah, if someone out there watching.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It'd be like early 2000s is probably when that happens. So, but yeah, it's like you say, God stretches and grows us, right?
Yeah.
And same thing with grace and truth. Like, as you were relating to with, your wife, Jamie, like you're both growing and stretching it's no accident that Jamie is a grace person and you're a truth person, right? So he's stretching both of you relationally in your everyday life together around those areas.
100%. And that's something that we come back to a lot. And it's something that I would like to see younger generations embrace too, because particularly with social media now, there's all this like red flag culture. And it's like, I think young people sometimes get this idea that good relationships are discovered, like they're found like a jewel in the sand, when the truth is that they're built. And so and it's through this process you're talking about. And it's also this biblical injunction of like two halves becoming a whole together,
Right.
And so in some sense, every person needs both of those things, truth and grace. But it's a tremendous gift from God that I have reflections of that in my marriage to help make me whole. Because often when I am going too hard for truth, Jamie is the one to pull me back for grace, and vice versa, right? So that I think that process there's something to be said for that,
Right. I think it also helps because, if you understand, okay, that person is a truth person or a grace person, you can take what they say differently because you understand that's their mindset.
Yes.
So understanding where that person's coming from, even that if that's not your normal kind of mode of operation, but it's that understanding of how everybody is made. God makes us all uniquely, and that we work together and that we can have relationships and not get offended if somebody shows too much grace or they're too truthful.
Right.
But okay, that's how they speak, so I got to take what they say maybe with a little bit grain of salt type deal.
Yeah, that empathy is such a huge component, I think, in what you're saying, because it's really easy to condemn each other for being too either or. When someone is too graceful, I feel like I'm being lied to. Like, tell me what you really think. Give it to me straight. But that's not affording that person latitude and grace. Reciprocal grace. So yeah, I think the whole topic is super interesting. So we'll have a discussion similar to this one, but a little bit more guided, right? So if you haven't been to a night of worship, I try and prepare some questions for pastors, and it is a discussion similar to this, but we will get a little deeper into the biblical end of it.
Yeah, and as you guys are talking about this grace and truth concept of where do we see Jesus, in action using grace and truth?
Yeah.
And the woman at the well, really, John 4 popped into my head. There was, this woman, she was married a number of times and is now with her fifth man who's not her husband. And the fact that, what's the truth around her being at the well at noon when all the other women would come in the morning? And so she speaks truth about when Jesus asked her for water and you're a Jew, why are you asking me? I'm a Samaritan woman. So there's the truth of a fractured, onerous relationship between two people groups. And then, ownership. What's the truth of who owns this well, right? Our people worship on this mountain, and then because, our forefathers owned this well, and then Jesus is like, well, we worship in Jerusalem. We worship spirit and truth. you know, and so where does Jesus encounter and bring truth? He says, you know, you are right that you're not, you're not married, but you have had 5 husbands. Now you're not. And so there he's speaking truth to her brokenness.
Or even though like the person you're living with right now is not even your husband.
Yeah.
He doesn't like sugarcoat it.
Nope.
He is truthful, but as I know you're going to go into, the grace he shows her.
Yes, he does. Yeah. And so he invites her to a relationship with the Messiah, and she knows about the Messiah, and she's like, well, basically, show me him. And then she's like, well, the one you're talking to is I. You know, I'm the Messiah. And so then there's that grace of like, he invited her into relationship.
Yeah.
And he spoke the truth of her brokenness to open up her heart, perhaps, and crack it open. And then you see the beautiful result of that. She was so pumped, she just dropped her water and ran.
Yeah.
Like to go tell everybody, a village that already knows her reputation, background. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that they listened to her, you know, is compelling.
Yeah.
Because now she's really speaking truth and showing, you know, this man who knew everything about me. It's the Messiah. Come and see. So there's that invitation, and they come and see. They have their own questions, and then it says that many believed in Jesus. So, like, that's the power of the two working together.
To the two working together.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's interesting, like, you know, how do we take that example from Jesus and like actualize it in our own lives? You know, part of her astonishment is that he knows all of this intimate stuff about her, you know? And so so to me, it's like, okay, you may not have the supernatural power of Christ to be able to like look at someone and right. But
I know everything about you.
Right. But there are people that you know intimately.
Yes.
And there are people that you know in the way that Christ knew that woman instantly. And so what are you going to do? Are you going to weaponize their history and the truth in order to hurt them or to reveal something deeper, you know?
And I think some of this, as you guys were saying about like knowing the right time to maybe show truth or grace. Like Jesus,
timing, yes.
Jesus knew exactly. Like I think back to seminary when they're like, you know, somebody's going to ask you, is this a sin? Or what do you think about this thing? Is it sinful? Is it wrong according to God? Well, the question is like, why does that person want to know? If they're maybe thinking about that, then you want to give them the law and say that's wrong. But if they've already done that thing and they're coming to you, they don't need the law to hammer them down anymore. They need the gospel to show them that they are forgiven. So the same with this truth and grace is like, maybe the person needs to hear the truth right now, or maybe they need to hear grace. So being able to decipher Jesus, you know, being perfect, he knows exactly when people need the truth or grace.
Yeah. And magnitudes or orders of truth is interesting to me too, because of course I believe in absolute truth. But like, so the example I like to use that comes to mind is like, let's say you don't like oatmeal. But you find yourself in a situation where you're stranded in a forest and it's raining and it's cold and you think you might die, and you come across a cabin and a stranger offers you to come in by the warm fire, and they give you a bowl of oatmeal and they ask you, do you like the dinner? Now, like truthfully, you don't like oatmeal. So it's right to say, no, I don't like this. But to me, the deeper order of truth is that you are very thankful that you're out of the cold. Here's a stranger who's offered you something. And so more than just trying to be polite or not hurt their feelings, that's the deeper truth, right? And so, yes, I like the oatmeal very much right now, you know? So there's this weird, God's hierarchy is like nested in this really interesting way. And so you find yourself in these interpersonal situations with people where it's like these questions we're asking, like, not only is it the truth, is it the right order of truth? Is it the right time to say it? And then again, that grace component, how am I delivering it, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes so often there's you mentioned layers. I think you said layers.
Yeah.
Like someone may be seeking truth about someone or their actions and saying that this is the facts and this is how I see them. That is wrong. That's the truth of it. That is wrong. But they are not taking into account all that person is grappling with. Not to excuse what they think is wrong, but maybe they don't know the deeper issues below the surface.
Kind of that whole like
Right.
walking a mile in somebody else's
Yeah,
shoes. Where you
yeah.
know, like I think back to like working in a grocery store. Somebody might have a bad day coming through my line.
Yes.
I don't know. They're taking their frustration on me, but I don't know what happened in the hours leading up to that. Maybe
Right.
broken relationship, lost a loved one, or got in trouble or fired from work.
Yeah.
And now this is a situation they can control, and boom, take it on them. I don't know what their background is.
The context means everything, and it can even transform the nature of the truth itself in some sense. So, like another example comes to mind is like, okay, I think we would all agree that like just abject violence against one another is bad, like that's objectively bad, right? And so if I walked into a room and I saw you in a tussle with another man, you would go like, fighting is bad. This is not good. That's objectively true. But if I came to find out that this person had barged in with a weapon and was trying to hurt you or something, and you're defending yourself, well, now it's exactly the right thing to do, right?
Yeah, right.
So again, people can use stuff like this to twist their own narratives, which is not good. But what I'm just trying to point out is everything is bound by context, and so like things are transformed based on that information. And so often, whether it's whatever, politically, socially, personally, we get drawn into these things where like, well, this is the absolute, and we're ignoring that it's nested in this much deeper, richer context. And so two things. I think people avoid it because that's more work. But the payoff is that it's a richer view of the world. You know, it's like the world is actually much deeper, more complex than you can even comprehend.
Yeah,
And if you if you actually take the time to like have those difficult discussions with people, not only will you find that you probably have more in common than you thought, but like there's probably something there for you that's enriching. So like part of it is being able to hang in despite feeling different towards others.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of the social media aspect of people watch videos of, let's say, what you just described, two people fighting.
Yeah.
And so...
And the headline is just, pastor beats up man in church. You know what I mean? Yeah,
right.
Right.
And so they already got a bias because of the title. And then they're looking through that lens, and then they're making judgments of what they're seeing in the snippet of, a short amount of time. And so then ensues all the commentary.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And you see it everywhere. But nobody knows the greater context.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's what our society has lost in some degree with our penchant to social media, watching in on people's lives, making a pronouncement that it could be their perceived truth of what they're seeing, but it could be completely different, as you brought up in your example. So we've lost that.
Right. Or another, like, it's just because I was saying about because the Olympics ending, the Nathan McKinnon of Team Canada, his comments after Canada lost to the United States, the gold medal game, when initially I heard it, he said, well, we know we're the better team type deal that, you can be the judge of who actually is the better team. But when you look at his full quote, it isn't as bad as I initially took it. I'm still going to take it negatively because, but he was just like, it's been close for a while, They're an amazing skilled group of players. I just felt like it wasn't going to be. You guys can be the judge of who the better team was tonight, but they won, we lost. But when you hear that full context, it's a little bit different than what I initially kind of heard. It was like
the soundbite.
You be the judge of who the better team is.
Yeah.
Like we played the better game, but at the end he did admit they won, we lost, and so that like softens it. But I still don't want to take his softened version of this. There's the sinful side of like, no, I don't want to take his truth.
That's a good thing to point out too, right? Is like sometimes like it's not even you saying truth, you're having truth delivered to you. And what is like, when I get defensive, I realize like, oh, that's usually an area like I need to look at. There's a reason that you feel so, because the things that you really feel secure in, you don't feel the need to defend them. You know them, But like when you get really defensive about something, there's probably something there for you. So that's a thing too, right? Is the resistance that we feel to truth and correction and that kind of thing.
Great stuff. I think we're really, giving a good tease here.
Yeah, we're really cooking. Maybe
we're
this
working
might be
things
it.
out ourselves.
This might be it.
Right.
We're going to take a break between sets, and we're just going to roll this video.
Yeah, we just don't want, but we don't want us to share everything today.
No, not at all.
But hopefully this is going to be enough of a tease.
Nice tease.
Well, we got to hear the rest of this conversation.
Exactly.
100%.
So yeah, I guess Joe, if you want to hit out the closing song on the blue button.
Pastor, you are so nice by letting me press these buttons. You guys, I can't tell you how excited I am to do this. Which is it? The
Can
green
we
one?
do one where our voice is really
Oh,
weird?
yeah. Which is that one?
Well, only I think we can do that probably on Joe's. I mean,
Okay.
so we can do.
What could he say?
I don't know. You can.
Thursday, March 12th at 6:30 p.m.
Oh,
Nope. Oh nope.
Truth and Grace. 6:30, March 12th. Be there.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Joe. We're
right.
just.
That's okay.
So yeah, I was just trying to figure out which ones that work best for you here, Joe.
I just want to talk like this all the time now.
So we'll put you back to normal here.
Okay.
Joe.
All right, which one do I press?
The blue button.
All right, see you guys.
PD and P-Dubs Unscripted.